Most people search for change by consuming more information. Another book. Another video. Another idea that promises transformation without demanding commitment. But the Stoics understood something far more uncomfortable and far more powerful. You do not change by knowing more. You change by training differently. A habit chosen with intention becomes a private arena. A place where discipline is built quietly. Where character is shaped without applause. Where the mind is tested not when life is gentle, but when pressure appears. These habits are not escapes from reality. They are preparations for it. Each one trains a specific form of strength. Emotional control. Patience. Clarity. Endurance. Self-command. What follows is not a list of hobbies meant to entertain you. It is a framework for transformation. Choose one. Commit to it seriously. And over time, you will not need to explain what changed in you. Others will see it before you speak. Habit 1. Boxing, training calm inside chaos. Boxing is not about violence, dominance, or proving toughness. At its core, boxing is controlled exposure to stress. From the very first session, your nervous system is placed in conditions it instinctively wants to escape. Your heart rate spikes. Your breathing shortens. Your vision narrows. An opponent stands in front of you, triggering the same primal responses that appear in confrontation, conflict, or crisis in everyday life. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid this state. They wait to feel calm before acting. Boxing teaches the opposite lesson. It trains you to remain functional while calm is absent. The central skill is not punching. It is regulation. Learning how to breathe deliberately while your body signals danger trains emotional control at a physiological level, not a motivational one. You are not telling yourself to be calm. You are practicing calm under pressure until it becomes automatic. Proper boxing training begins with humility, not ego. Footwork, stance, defense, and shadow boxing come before power. These fundamentals teach awareness without unnecessary damage. Sparring too early reinforces impulsiveness, not discipline. The Stoic value of boxing lies in repetition under fatigue. Each round forces you to maintain clarity while tired, frustrated, and uncomfortable. Over time, fear loses authority. Stress is no longer interpreted as a command that must be obeyed. This carries directly into real life. Difficult conversations, demanding work, moments of criticism, and unexpected pressure no longer hijack your nervous system. You have already practiced staying present while your body wanted to flee. Boxing also builds humility in a way few activities can. There is always someone sharper, faster, more experienced. Accepting this without resentment trains resilience. You learn that progress comes from consistency, not domination. In Stoic terms, the opponent is never the person in front of you. The real opponent is the version of yourself that collapses when pressure rises. Boxing weakens that version through repeated exposure and deliberate control. Over time, you stop reacting. You respond. And that single shift changes how you carry yourself everywhere else in life. Habit 2. Journaling, mastering the inner dialogue. Journaling, when practiced seriously, is not self-expression. It is self-examination. Most people live inside a constant stream of thoughts, emotions, and reactions without ever stepping outside of them. They feel busy, overwhelmed, and confused, yet they cannot explain why. Journaling interrupts the cycle by forcing the mind into visibility. What remains vague in thought becomes precise on paper. The discomfort people feel toward journaling is not accidental. Writing removes plausible deniability. Patterns that could previously hide behind distraction are exposed. Repeated mistakes, recurring emotional triggers, familiar excuses, all become impossible to ignore once they are recorded consistently. This is why many people start journaling enthusiastically and abandon it quickly. The page does not flatter. It reflects. From a Stoic perspective, journaling is not emotional release. It is disciplined observation. The practice is not about how you feel, but about what you did. What action did you take today? What did you avoid? Where did emotion override reason? Where did you act according to principle, and where did you betray it? The goal is accuracy, not comfort. Judgment and self-pity distort the data. Clarity strengthens it. Consistency matters more than insight. One honest page each day compounds into self-knowledge that cannot be faked. Over time, you begin to recognize your own patterns before they fully unfold. Anger slows down because it is familiar. Anxiety loses its urgency because it has been seen before. This creates distance between impulse and action, the space in which wisdom operates. Journaling gradually builds internal authority. You stop outsourcing self-assessment to moods, opinions, or external validation. You know yourself because you have studied yourself. In Stoic terms, this is the foundation of self-command. When you understand your inner mechanisms, you are no longer ruled by them. You become capable of choosing your response instead of being dragged by your reaction. Habit 3. Traditional archery, discipline in stillness. Traditional archery is not a sport of speed or force. It is a practice of restraint. Every movement is slow, deliberate, and exposed. There is no crowd noise, no chaos to hide behind, no opponent to blame. The bow becomes a mirror. Whatever state your mind is in, it appears in the arrow's flight. In archery, tension cannot be faked or forced away. If the mind rushes, the body follows. If the breath is shallow, the release becomes unstable. The arrow does not care about intention, motivation, or desire. It responds only to alignment. This is why archery quietly reveals impatience more effectively than any lecture ever could. It shows, without commentary, that power applied too early is wasted. Training begins with fundamentals: posture, anchor point, breathing, and release. Distance is irrelevant at first. What matters is eliminating unnecessary movement. This process teaches a Stoic lesson that modern life often forgets. Control precedes outcome. Precision precedes power. The disciplined mind does less, not more. Over time, the act of drawing the bow and releasing the arrow becomes meditative. Focus narrows. External noise fades. The present moment becomes unavoidable. In this stillness, emotional neutrality develops. Success is received calmly. Failure is observed without agitation. Each shot is simply information. Archery also trains accountability. There is no one else responsible for where the arrow lands. You cannot argue with the target. You accept the result, adjust, and try again. This builds a quiet confidence rooted in self-regulation. In Stoic terms, archery embodies the principle of controlling what is in your power and releasing what is not. You commit fully to the action, then accept the outcome without disturbance. Habit 4. Calisthenics, the discipline of honest effort. Calisthenics is a confrontation with reality. There are no machines to compensate, no weights to hide imbalance, no external assistance to soften weakness. Your body weight becomes both the tool and the test. The moment you begin, the truth is revealed. What you can do, and what you cannot do, is immediately clear. This is what makes calisthenics such a powerful Stoic practice. It strips away illusion. Progress cannot be negotiated or rushed. Every gain is earned through repetition, precision, and patience. Foundational movements like push UPS, pull UPS, squats, and holds demand control of the entire body. If form breaks down, the movement fails. There are no shortcuts that do not eventually expose themselves. Calisthenics trains delayed gratification in a world addicted to speed. Strength builds slowly. Skills emerge only when structure and consistency align. This teaches a critical mental shift. Limits are not identities. They are temporary conditions. Each session becomes an exercise in showing up without drama, doing the work, and accepting incremental progress. The psychological effect runs deeper than physical strength. As coordination improves, so does self-trust. You begin to believe in your ability to improve through disciplined effort. Frustration is replaced by curiosity. Failure becomes information rather than a verdict. This mindset transfers directly into life. Challenges are no longer interpreted as proof of inadequacy, but as invitations to train. In Stoic terms, calisthenics cultivates endurance, humility, and self-command. It teaches you to work with what you have, where you are, without complaint. Over time, the body becomes stronger, but more importantly, the mind learns to remain steady, patient, and committed, regardless of how long progress takes. Habit 5. Chess, discipline of thought and consequence. Chess is a training ground for the mind where impulse is punished and responsibility cannot be escaped. There is no randomness to hide behind. Every position on the board is the direct result of decisions you made earlier. This is why chess feels unforgiving. It exposes how you think under pressure. In chess, emotion clouds judgment immediately. Impatience leads to careless moves. Fear causes passivity. Ego pushes unnecessary aggression. The game teaches, without mercy, that reacting emotionally creates weakness. Improvement begins only when you accept full ownership of your losses. Excuses slow learning. Honest analysis accelerates it. The Stoic value of chess lies in delayed response. You are forced to pause, calculate, and consider consequences before acting. Short-term gratification often leads to long-term defeat. Learning to sacrifice an immediate advantage for a superior future position reshapes how you think about decisions beyond the board. Over time, chess builds emotional neutrality. You stop identifying with each move as a reflection of your worth. A bad move becomes information, not an insult. This separation of ego from outcome is rare and powerful. It creates clarity under uncertainty. This discipline transfers directly into life. Financial choices, negotiations, career decisions, and long-term planning all benefit from the same habits chess develops. Calm analysis. Acceptance of consequence. Strategic patience. In Stoic terms, chess trains you to act according to reason rather than impulse, and to accept outcomes without disturbance once the move has been made. Habit 6. Classical rhetoric and oratory. Order in thought, strength in speech. Classical rhetoric is not about persuasion through force or manipulation. It is the discipline of structured thinking expressed with clarity. In a world saturated with noise, emotion, and unfiltered opinion, rhetoric trains the ability to speak with intention. Before words are spoken, thoughts must be ordered. This alone separates rhetoric from most modern communication. Practicing rhetoric begins with writing, not speaking. Arguments are built carefully, step by step, so that each idea supports the next. This process exposes confusion immediately. If your reasoning is unclear, your speech will be unclear. There is no hiding behind volume, charisma, or emotion. The structure must hold. When spoken aloud, rhetoric demands control. Pace, pauses, and word choice matter more than intensity. Silence becomes a tool rather than a weakness. You learn to respect the listener's intelligence instead of overwhelming it. This is why rhetoric initially feels uncomfortable. It removes distraction and exposes the quality of your thinking in real time. Over time, rhetoric creates internal coherence. Thought and speech begin to align. You say less, but each word carries more weight. Confidence emerges naturally, not as performance, but as a reflection of clarity. You are no longer reacting verbally. You are responding deliberately. In Stoic terms, rhetoric strengthens self-command. It allows you to express reason without agitation and conviction without aggression. This transforms leadership, negotiation, and personal boundaries. When you can articulate your position calmly and precisely, you no longer need to raise your voice or defend your ego. Your words stand on their own. Habit 7. Reading, conditioning the mind for reality. Reading, when practiced with intention, is not entertainment. It is mental training. Most people read to escape, to be distracted, or to confirm what they already believe. This kind of reading changes very little. Stoic reading is different. It is slow, deliberate, and often uncomfortable, because it challenges assumptions rather than soothing them. Active reading requires effort. You engage with the text instead of consuming it passively. You pause. You question. You reread difficult passages until they are understood. Notes are taken not to collect quotes, but to sharpen thinking. This process builds intellectual endurance, the ability to sit with complexity without rushing toward easy conclusions. Different kinds of reading train different faculties. Philosophy strengthens judgment and resilience by teaching you how to think about adversity. Biography expands perspective, reminding you that struggle, failure, and uncertainty are universal human experiences. Psychology develops self-knowledge by revealing the mechanisms behind behavior, desire, and fear. Together, these forms of reading create a wider internal framework from which decisions are made. The Stoic value of reading lies in application. Knowledge that does not shape action is decoration. Insights are meant to be tested against daily life. You observe whether an idea improves your conduct, your patience, or your ability to remain calm under pressure. If it does not, it remains theoretical. Over time, reading builds quiet strength. Your reactions slow. Your judgments become less emotional and more informed. You borrow wisdom from lives you have not lived and mistakes you did not have to make yourself. In Stoic terms, reading is preparation for adversity. It equips the mind to meet life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Habit 8. Long-distance hiking or rucking, the practice of quiet endurance. Long-distance hiking and rucking are disciplines of continuation. There is no speed to chase, no immediate reward, no audience. You move forward step by step, often in silence, carrying weight or distance that cannot be negotiated away. This simplicity is precisely where the training begins. As fatigue sets in, the mind reveals itself. Impatience appears. Discomfort asks for excuses. The body looks for reasons to stop. Unlike intense workouts that rely on short bursts of effort, hiking and rucking demand regulation. You learn to pace yourself, to breathe rhythmically, and to conserve energy. The lesson is clear. Intensity fades. Consistency endures. This practice teaches emotional sobriety. Discomfort is met without drama. There is no need to label the experience as good or bad. You continue because continuing is the task. Over time, you become familiar with tiredness without becoming ruled by it. This familiarity builds confidence that does not depend on motivation. The Stoic value lies in endurance without complaint. Long efforts mirror real-life responsibilities. Careers, relationships, and personal growth all require sustained commitment rather than bursts of enthusiasm. Hiking and rucking train the capacity to remain steady when progress feels slow and invisible. In Stoic terms, this habit strengthens fortitude. You accept the weight. You accept the distance. You focus only on what is within your control, posture, breath, and the next step. Everything else is released. By doing so, you learn that true strength is not explosive force, but the ability to keep going calmly toward a distant goal. Habit 9. Learning a high-income skill, building autonomy through usefulness. Learning a high-income skill is not about chasing money. It is about reducing dependence. Skills such as programming, digital marketing, sales, design, or data analysis create leverage because they make you useful in a concrete, measurable way. Usefulness is one of the quiet foundations of freedom. The Stoic danger here is distraction. Many people confuse learning with browsing. They jump from skill to skill, course to course, never staying long enough to build depth. Mastery requires choosing one skill with real demand and committing to it for a long period of time. Confidence comes from competence, not variety. True skill is forged through application. Theory without practice creates false certainty. Real problems expose gaps immediately. Mistakes are not signs of failure but precise feedback. When analyzed without emotional reaction, failure becomes one of the fastest teachers. Each correction compounds. Over time, ability replaces hope. You stop waiting for opportunity and begin creating it. Confidence becomes grounded in evidence rather than motivation. External validation loses its power because your value is expressed through what you can consistently deliver. In Stoic terms, learning a high-income skill is an exercise in virtue. Discipline to study when results are invisible. Courage to face repeated failure without quitting. Wisdom to become useful to others rather than dependent on circumstance. Autonomy is not given. It is built, one skillful action at a time. Habit 10. Foreign language mastery, rebuilding the mind from the ground up. Learning a foreign language is one of the purest disciplines of humility. Progress is slow, uneven, and often invisible. You return to a state of beginner's mind where complex thoughts must be reconstructed word by word. Ego has no place here. This alone makes language learning a powerful Stoic practice. Daily exposure is essential. Short, consistent practice matters more than intensity. Speaking imperfectly is not a mistake. It is the training itself. Each error reveals what is missing, and each correction strengthens the structure. Frustration becomes part of the process, not a reason to stop. As vocabulary grows and grammar begins to settle, something deeper happens. The mind adapts. New linguistic structures introduce new ways of organizing thought. You do not merely learn to communicate differently. You begin to think differently. Assumptions soften. Certainty loosens. Perspective expands. Language learning also trains patience and long-term commitment. There are no shortcuts. Mastery arrives quietly after sustained effort. This teaches the Stoic lesson that worthwhile outcomes often appear only after the desire for quick results has been abandoned. In Stoic terms, foreign language mastery reinforces a fundamental truth. The world is larger than our interpretations of it. By learning how others speak, you learn how others see. This cultivates calm, open-mindedness, and wisdom. You become less reactive, less rigid, and more capable of meeting reality with understanding rather than resistance. None of these habits are shortcuts. They do not promise quick confidence or instant results. They demand repetition. They demand discomfort. And they demand patience when progress feels slow or invisible. That is precisely why they work. The Stoics never ask for an easy life. They train for a stable mind. Through discipline, through restraint, through daily practice that strengthened what could not be taken away. These habits do the same. They teach you to master yourself before trying to master circumstances. Choose one. Not because it is impressive, but because it is demanding. Commit to it not until motivation fades, but until discipline replaces it. Over time, your reactions will slow. Your confidence will deepen. And your life will change, not because the world became easier, but because you became harder to shake.